Hey, what's up, guys? It's Austin FFA here, or Luna.
Get out of my chair, get off my microphone, right now.
Just give me like 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes, that's all I need.
How about no? How about stop sneaking out of the basement and get back down to the hole you crawled out of?
This is just inhumane. You can't do this.
You want to fucking bet?
No, please,
You wanna
please, stop. Okay, I'm going. I'm leaving.
Okay, I'm leaving. I'm gone. Annoying son of a bitch. Hey, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is one that I've been waiting to tell for a long time now. Pretty good one. Pretty funny one in my opinion, and crazy. Just, it's got a lot of everything, okay? And it'll probably be a long video. So for all of you that like my super long videos, you're welcome, I guess. So, today is the story of how I accidentally started dating a girl who was kind of famous on Instagram, and how it completely blew up in my face. Hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do. Let's jump into it. So today's story time all takes place back when I was 18 years old. Now, I had YouTube success at a pretty young age. I'd say my channel popped off when I was like 16, and it became my full-time career at 16. And like from that day forward, I really had this dream to where I wanted to move to LA. Now, when I turned 18 2 years later, I had the money and the means to do it, but I didn't know if I was going to like it or not. So I decided to do like a trial period. So I went to LA with some friends of mine, and we rented a big Airbnb together, and we stayed there for like 2 months, right? I did jump back and forth a little bit to my hometown, but I mainly stayed in LA for that 2 months. And like the first week we got there, it was really sick, and it was a lot of fun, and it felt like vacation. Probably because it basically was vacation. I wasn't living there yet officially. So essentially we did what everyone does on vacation. We went to the beach, we went to like all the restaurants we read about online, we checked out all the touristy spots, and just kind of like visited around the spots that we always, would talk about visiting. I remember my dumb ass wanted to see all the places from GTA 5 that I liked, so I like went around one day and like checked out all the iconic spots, when in reality that's just LA. So after the first week, I kind of got all the tourist out of me. I kind of saw everything I needed to see, and at that point, I just kind of started to settle in and, just chill. And I had some friends that lived out in LA. Back in the day, LA was a spot where like every YouTuber that had a little bit of money would move to. Not really sure why, because it's like really expensive to live there. But back in the day, that's where everyone wanted to be, including me. It was like one of my dream cities to live in. So anyway, yeah, after the first week of me and my friends kind of just exploring the city and like getting to know it, I hit up some other friends of mine that already lived out there. And I was like, hey, I'm here for 2 months. Like, we should all hang out at some point. Like, I want to see you guys. And one of my friends hit me back. We're just going to call him Jason. I actually spoke about Jason in a story like 2 days ago. He was a fellow YouTube friend of mine. He ran a YouTube channel with like 5 million subs. It was one of those like best viral videos channels, essentially. I'd give his channel a little bit of a shout out, but he sold it off like a year ago. So I'd just be shouting out some random guy. But yeah, he used to have this really big channel, and he lived out in LA at the time. So anyway, he hit me back after I texted him earlier that day, and he was like, yo, like, you should come over tonight. I'm having an influencer party. Now, let me tell you guys, if you ever have the opportunity to go to a quote-unquote influencer party, don't go, because it's fucking cringe. It's literally just where a bunch of people get into a room that think they're important and just jerk each other off, okay? That's not actually what happens. Well, kinda. Not literally jerk each other off, but like figuratively jerk each other off. They just go around and they're like, oh, how many followers do you have? Oh, 1 million? I have 2. Oh, we're so cool. Like, that's literally what it is, essentially. And I fucking hate it. But at the time, when I was 18, I didn't know what one was. So I was like, oh, okay, like it just sounds like a party where a bunch of my fellow YouTuber people will be, and I can make some friends in the internet space. Like, that sounds fun. So later that night, me and a couple of my IRL friends got ready, and we went to Jason's house where he was having this influencer party. And when we got there, I quickly realized that I don't really like influencer parties. Now, before I start listing all the reasons why I hated this party, let me talk about some good things first. Number 1, this house had people inside of it that I had idolized since I was like 15. I'm not going to name drop because I don't want to be that guy that goes around and airs out everyone's business and what they were doing in LA. But I saw a lot of people there that like I watched as a kid, YouTubers that I literally idolized. And it was hard not to fan out. I wanted to like fanboy and go like take photos with these people, but I didn't want to be that guy and like ruin their private evening, so I didn't. But I also saw some other stuff that made me not like this party so much. AKA the people that I idolized for all these years doing things that I don't want to see them doing. For example, I saw a dude who was like pretty famous in the children's gaming scene Not gonna say which game because it'll probably blow his cover. Just like railing lines. I don't know what he was snorting up his nose, but like I could probably guess. And it was wild. I was seeing someone that I watched in my childhood and that like would always tell me, don't go out and do drugs, railing lines at an LA party. Now that wasn't really my problem with the party, okay? There was a lot more. The real issue I had with this party is every single person that I approached and tried to start a conversation with, some of these people, like I said, who I idolized and had millions of followers, they were just mean. Like, I thought a lot of these people, because of their YouTube personas, were like really, really nice and like open to people coming up to them and talking to them. But I went up to a few people that I really, really looked up to, and I was like, hey man, like my name's Luna, nice to meet you. And some of them were just dicks to me. For example, there was this one dude who I was really, really stoked on meeting. He had quite a few million subs, and someone that a lot of you would probably know if I said their name. And he was sitting in this big group of people, like on a couch, and I walked up just like on some super anxious shit. And I was like, hey man, my name's Luna, like nice to meet you. I don't want to sound too much like a fanboy here, but your videos kind of inspired me to start doing YouTube, and now I'm at a party that you're at, so I gotta come say thank you. And he was like, oh, cool man, like what's your channel? And I was like, just Luna. And he like looked me up right in front of everyone, right? And he's like, oh, I've seen your videos, you do like the story stuff. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, that's awesome, that's awesome. Now I'm standing there, right, trying not to freak out, because this dude that I idolized since I was like 14 or 15 knows who I am and like is saying that it's cool that I do YouTube now, right? Like I'm having a little fanboy moment inside. And he goes, so you said that like my videos inspired you? And I was like, yeah, dude, you and a few others were definitely my inspirations for, trying to be a YouTuber. So it's cool to like meet you at a party that I get to be at from being a YouTuber, from being inspired by people like you. Like, it's just a big full circle moment for me. Sorry, I'm not trying to sound like a fanboy. He's like, nah, dude, you're good. And then he asked a question that made me kind of realize why I hate these parties. He goes, how many views are you pulling like a month? And I think at this point I had a video going pretty viral. So I think it was at like 15 or 20 million that month, right? So I said like 20 million. He's like, holy shit, dude, the storytime content really pays, doesn't it? And I was like, yeah, I mean, for how young I am and how ignorant I am to this whole thing, I'm very, very lucky. And he's like, dude, nah, man, like, that's really, really cool. We should collab. Now, when I heard those words, I damn near shit myself. One of my favorite creators of all time wanted to work with me. And, like, he was still killing it on YouTube at the time and, like, was very, very successful. So the fact he wanted to work with me was just a dream come true, right? So obviously I said yes, and I was super excited. And he's like, all right, cool. Yeah, like, if you want, I could do, like, a surprise guest spot on one of your videos and, like, tell a story or something. And I was like, dude, that sounds amazing. Like, yes, let's do it. He's like, awesome, bro. Sounds awesome. Here, take your phone out. I'm going to give you my manager's number so you can, like, contact him and we can set it up. And I'm stoked, right? I'm ripping out my phone. I'm, like, making a new contact. I'm getting ready to make this dude a contact. And then he like puts his hand on my shoulder and he's like, oh, yo, real quick, just so like you don't get caught off guard when my manager tells you, my price is $25K. I laughed. I literally laughed because I thought he was kidding. And he's like, what? And I was like, oh shit, my bad. Like I thought you were kidding. 25 grand for a collab? He's like, yeah, man, for 5 minutes and above, it's $25K. Keep in mind, this collab would have been him coming on my channel, telling a story and just getting my subs essentially, right? Like getting my subscribers and then like benefiting off it. And like, would it benefit me? Would I probably get like an extra 50 or 100K views? Possibly, which is great because his name was in the title, but like he'd be benefiting more. There was no denying that. So the fact that he wanted $25,000 to come on my channel and get subs was crazy to me. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? He's a big YouTuber. If he wants to charge that, he can. I just wish he told me sooner. So I essentially told him like, yeah, I'll think about it. And I took his manager's number down and I walked away very disappointed. And it made me realize like these LA parties are nothing but networking and just trying to like climb the ladder and like step on heads. I just didn't like that. So anyway, after I walked away from him, I went over to my friend group and I was talking to them and telling them what just happened because I felt very, very annoyed by that. And while I'm talking to my friends, I get a tap on my shoulder and I turn around and it's one of the girls that was sitting with that YouTuber I just talked to. She was over like at that couch with him, sitting next to him when I was talking to him about collabing. And she's like, hey, what's up? I didn't get to introduce myself. My name's Maggie. Now, Maggie was not her real name. I am hiding her identity for the sake of the story. But I was like, oh, hey, like my name's Austin. Nice to meet you. And she's like, hey, I just want to let you know, like that interaction back there was fucked up. And I was like, oh, like, did I say something wrong? She's like, no, you didn't do anything wrong. He's in the wrong. Like the fact he made you think that y'all were about to collab and then was like, hey, $25K. That's messed up. And I was like, yeah, I guess. And she's like, also, I don't know if you realized it, but you're getting a lot more views than he is a month right now. That's why he wanted to collab. Like, you're benefiting him more than he's benefiting you. That's why he brought up collaborating with you. And the fact that he tried to charge you for it is fucking awful. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for telling me this, because I really felt kind of crazy for a second. And she was like, no, anytime. And she was like, so did you just move here? And I was like, kinda, yeah. Like a week ago, I got like an Airbnb and we're staying here for a couple months, kind of like a trial period. Then I'll probably move out here fully after that. And she's like, that's cool. Like, what have you done so far since you got out here? And I told her about all the touristy stuff we did and like all the things we've been doing. And she's like, hey, have you tried this food spot? And I was like, no, not yet. She's like, oh, I gotta take you there. Like, you would love it. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And the more and more I talked to this girl, right, and the more and more I got to know her, the more and more familiar she seemed. I didn't know where I'd seen her before, but I feel like I had seen her before, whether it was like in a YouTube video or like on the internet somewhere. I just felt like she looked familiar. Honestly, I was assuming that she was like dating another YouTuber that I used to watch or something back in the day, and that's how I knew her. And finally, after talking to her for like 5 or 10 minutes, I just had to ask. I was like, listen, sorry if this is weird, but like, you look so familiar. Like, do you like do YouTube or something? She's like, no, not really. I just have like an Instagram. And I'm like, oh, what's your Instagram? I'll follow you. And she's like, oh, it's this. And she gives me the handle. And when she said the name of her handle, I immediately recognized it. It sounded super familiar. So when I looked her up and I saw her profile, I immediately knew who she was. I recognized it. This girl was, I guess what you would call an Instagram model. Like, she had like 300,000 followers, just kind of off of taking pretty selfies and like, you know, traveling and taking cool photos. And she had been blowing up recently. I knew this because people in my high school kept hitting me up like 2 months prior to me going out to LA, telling me I should try and like link up with her because she lived out there. So yeah, when this happened, I was like, wow, this is crazy that this is happening. I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. But yeah, we chatted for like another, 20 minutes, I'd say, and just got to know each other. And we ended up exchanging numbers because she wanted to take me to that like diner/restaurant spot she was talking about. And I was really excited because I'm like, yo, I just got like essentially asked out by this girl that's like really cool. I didn't give two shits about her followers or anything. Like, as cool as it was that she had people that really, really liked her, I did not give a fuck about any of that. I never have, and I never will. Honestly, that aspect of it kind of made me nervous because I'm like, yo, I got a lot of competition. There's a lot of dudes that really like this girl. So anyway, fast forward to after the party, you know, that guy that kind of ruined it for me, as much as he sucked, the party was okay because I got to meet that girl, which was awesome. And like a few days later, I get a text from Maggie and it's like, what are you doing today? And I was like, nothing. She's like, you want to hang out? I'm like, sure. So I went to her apartment and I hung out with her there for like an hour and a half. And then we went to that dinner spot she was talking about. And while we were there, we were kind of like getting to know each other a little bit and like talking more about our careers. And like she was asking me how it was to do YouTube. And I was asking her how it was to take selfies for a living, because that sounds awesome. And I'm not even like trolling when I say that. Like, that is like, what a job, bro. If I could just like get in the mirror and take a photo of my stupid ass face and make money off that by like promoting brands and stuff and like doing brand deals, like that just sounds so cool. I also learned through her that being an Insta model is not as cool as it seems. She told me that she had 5 different guys like stalk her, and I mean like stalk. She was telling me a story about a dude that showed up to her house at 3 a.m. that she had never met a day in her life. Some random guy like doxed her and showed up to her house, and she had to call the cops and like get him taken off the property and like sign a restraining order and shit. And I remember after she told me this, I was like, yo, you could like do what I do. You should just tell stories. Like, you got a bunch of cool stories. And she was like, yeah, maybe I will. And yeah, we really hit it off. Like, for hanging out for the first time one-on-one, it was a lot of fun. And she told me at the end of the night that she really liked hanging out with me and that she wanted to keep hanging out. And that made me feel really good because I ain't gonna lie, I was probably about 8 leagues below her. So I was very, very excited. So yeah, hanging out 1 time turned into 2 times, then 3, then 4, then 5. And before we knew it, we were hanging out very, very frequently and doing things like that a couple would do. So it got to a point where I just asked her, I was like, hey, would you want to be my girlfriend? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, cool. I didn't think you'd say yes, but cool. And we ended up, becoming officially like dating, which was cool. Now, we didn't go on social media and parade it around. We both had agreed when we started dating to not bring social media into it. And I'm so fucking happy we did that because, well, you'll learn. But I just don't like putting my relationships on social media because the minute you put a relationship on social media, it is no longer your relationship. It is everybody's relationship that follows you. So I don't like that. Like, I've seen public breakups. They are messy. So yeah, we started dating and things were going really good. I'd say the first 2 weeks of us officially dating were great. Really nothing out of the ordinary. Just happy cupcake phase relationship, right? Well, unfortunately, about like 2 or 3 weeks into it, I start to notice some red flags. And the flags were very red. The first one that I noticed was one night I hit her up and I was like, hey, what are you doing? Because I wanted to hang out with her. And she's like, oh, I'm just at this bar with some friends. And she named the friends and I knew of them because she told me about them before. And then like a minute later, literally like 60 seconds later, I opened Instagram and her friend's story popped up. One of the friends that she said she was with. And I clicked on it and she wasn't there. Like she was at her place, like just chilling, like sun tanning. So I messaged my girl about it and I was like, hey, like I thought you said she was there. Her story shows that like she's by herself at her place. And she was like, oh yeah, like my bad, I got the names wrong. I'm actually with this friend. And I was like, okay. And I thought that was kind of weird. I was like, like why would she lie about a friend that she's hanging out with? Like, how do you confuse your friends? That's just weird to me. But I didn't really question it. I was like, you know what? Maybe she's just had a long day and forgot. So I let it slide. But I did keep it in the back of my mind. I was like, all right, like let me remember that in case some other shit pops up. And sure enough, like 4 days later, some other shit popped up and it ended up ruining our relationship. So 4 days later, I wake up at like, I don't know, 2 or 3 p.m., very late in the day. And I texted her. I was like, good morning. And she's like, hey, good morning. And I was like, so what are you up to? She's like, nothing, just getting ready to go out with some friends tonight. And I was like, yeah, what do you got planned? And she's like, oh, it's my friend's 21st birthday tonight. I'm going to hang out with her. And I was like, cool, sounds fun. And she's like, yeah, I'm just at the store trying to buy an outfit. And I was like, cool. And we're just like chilling, like having a little text conversation, right? And then later that night at about 5:30, maybe 6, when it was time for her to go to this party, she texted me and she was like, hey, I'm about to leave. Just so you know, it's going to be pretty loud in there. Probably won't be on my phone very much, so I'll call you when I'm done. I'm like, all right, sounds good. Which is understandable. I've done that before. Like when I go to a party, I don't want to be on my phone the whole time. I want to actually enjoy the moment, so I don't text and stuff like that. So I let her like go do that, right? And like an hour or two later, I get a text message from her friend. That same friend that I talked about earlier that was like on her story by herself and wasn't hanging out with my girl, she texts me and she's like, hey, can you call me quick? I was like, sure. So I call her up and she answers and she sounds like anxious about something. And I was like, what's up? She's like, hey, I don't know how you're going to take this, but I'm at this party, right? It's our friend's 21st and Maggie's here. And I was like, yeah, I know. And she's like, yeah, she's like flirting with someone. Like, they're not like making out or anything, but they're flirting. Like, it's definitely not loyal to you. And I was like, what do you mean flirting? And she's like, I don't know. Like, the way they're talking, it seems very, very flirtatious, like giggly and like, you know, laughing at each other's jokes. And I saw them exchange numbers, and that's what made me want to call you. And that was valid. Exchanging numbers with a dude or a woman while you're in a relationship is definitely not loyal unless it's for like a separate reason. Like, if it was for work, like if she was getting a guy's number because he was the owner of a company and they were going to pay her a bunch of money for a brand deal, I'd be like, yeah, that's fair. But from what this girl told me, this guy was just like some LA Chad. He was essentially like trying to be an Instagram model, but he wasn't there yet. And he didn't really have like a job or anything. He was just some like LA Chad that was always trying to network and like hook up with people. And yeah, he's just a Chad, right? So when I heard this, obviously there was a part of me that was like, damn, that sucks. But I was also really relieved that I learned about this so early in our relationship so I can cut it off and get it out of the way now. So anyway, after she told me this, I thanked her for like telling me the truth because most people would cover for their friends. Like, I'm really surprised that she didn't make up a lie for Maggie, but she didn't. So yeah, I thanked her. I was like, you're a really good person. Thank you for telling me the truth. I'm probably going to break up with her. And she was like, yeah, that's fair. So later that night, like 2 or 3 hours later, Maggie calls me like she said she would when she got back from the party. And I pick up the phone. I'm like, hello? She's like, hey, Austin. And I was like, hey, how you doing? She's like, good, I just got back from the party. And I was like, cool. And she's like, I had a really good time. And I was like, yeah, it sounded fun. And she's like, oh yeah? Like, did you see like stories of it or something? I was like, no, someone called me that was there and like said that you were having a good time. And she was like, oh, who was it? And I was just like, oh, I forgot. And she's like, oh, okay. And I was like, listen, that same person told me that you were kind of flirting with someone and like exchange numbers. And like, listen, that's fine if you're single. So I'm going to do you a favor and break up with you because I don't think either of us should be in a relationship if you're flirting with a guy at a party getting his number, because that's not what you do when you're in a relationship. Like, that's the behavior of someone that wants to be single and like, you know, flirt with people. So no, I'm good. And she gets mad at me. She's like, what? Like, you're just going to dump me without letting me explain? And I was like, you're right. I should hear you out. Like, yeah, let me know what happened. And she starts talking, and like within a minute of her talking, she's like contradicting herself and like lying to me. She told me that the guy she was talking to is married and that she was getting his number for business reasons and not for like a flirtatious reason. And while she was telling me this like BS story, I opened Instagram and DM'd her friend and I was like, hey, send me that guy's Insta profile if you have it. And she did. She sent it to me in like a minute. And I went on his profile and I DM'd him and I was like, yo, are you married? And he replied and he's like, no, what the fuck, LMAO? So that confirmed that. And after she was done with her whole like story about how this guy came up to her and he was married and he's like in the industry trying to help her, blah, 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 blah. And essentially was saying that like she wasn't flirting with him. It was all professional. I told her, I was like, hey, so in the like 5-minute span that you just took telling that story, I debunked it. I went on Instagram, I DM'd him and he said he's not married. So who's lying to who? Are you lying to me or did he lie to you? And she's like, no, like he definitely lied to me then because like he definitely told me that. Like he literally said he was married. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to DM him right now and tell him what you just said and we'll see what he has to say. And she's like, okay. So I immediately go on Insta, I DM him, I'm like, hey, so Maggie's my girlfriend. I was told that she was flirting with you tonight, kind of hitting it off, but she's telling me that you're married and that wasn't the intention at all. So can you just clarify for me? And this dude replies and goes, bro, like she's lying to both of us because she told me she was single. I did not say I was married. Like she is full of shit. And he sent me a screenshot, bro. A screenshot from that night, like just a few hours ago when they exchanged numbers of her texting him and saying, hey, this is Maggie, like lock my number in with a kissing face. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm done with this. So I just told Maggie, I'm like, listen, I'm done. I'm like ending it here. We're breaking up. I don't know who's telling the truth, but I think he's telling the truth. And honestly, at this point, I don't think I could trust you anyway, even if you were telling the full truth. Like, there's just too much contradiction going on. Like, I don't like this, so let's just be friends. And she's like, I don't want to be fucking friends. And I'm like, okay, well, then I guess we won't be anything. I'm sorry. And I hung up because I didn't want to deal with it anymore. It was just too weird. At that point, my trust was just too broken. I was done with it, and I just wanted to move on and go, like, live my life, right? I didn't even care at this point. I wasn't sad. I was just annoyed, if anything. So, like, a day later, she tries to call me again, and I ignored it because I just didn't want to deal with it. And she tried texting me a couple times of just like, hey, like, call me when you get a chance. And I didn't call her because I just wanted to stay away from her. I just wanted to, like, be single, right? And at this point, like, a few days after we broke up, I definitely started to get a little bit, like, down in the dumps, you could say. I was definitely a little bit, you know, feeling shitty. Just because, like, it was the first month and I was in LA and there was already some shit that happened that wasn't good. You know what I mean? It was supposed to be, like, a perfect trip, and this was kind of ruining it. And my friends, all my IRL homies that were staying with me, could see that I was kind of in a bad mood. So they were like, yo, like, let's go get food. So they like took me out of the house. You know, we went to some random cafe downtown and we ordered food. And like 10 minutes later, the food gets to the table and I take a photo of it and I put it on my Instagram story. I didn't tag the location. I didn't write anything down about where I was. And I just put the food on my Instagram story because it looked good. That was all I was doing, right? Tell me why 15 minutes later, Maggie walks through the front door and she looks pissed. And she doesn't come up to me and start talking. She doesn't like try and start a conversation. She walks up to me at my table with my friends, grabs my plate and fucking flings it in my face, bro. Like flips my food and the glass plate face first into my face. Like smashes me with a glass plate and gets fucking French toast all over my face, bro. And I was like, yo, what the fuck? And she goes, now we're done. And she walks out. And immediately I'm like, so confused. I don't know how she found out where I was. I don't know why she just did that. All my friends are looking at me with the same look of confusion. Like, it was not good. So I have like two choices, right? I can either like take the legal route and call the cops and get her in trouble, right? Which I was not in the mood to do. I'm on like a trip. I don't want to deal with that. And then option two was just like move on, right? So that's what I chose. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to ignore it and go on with my life. So I like grab a napkin. I like clean up my fucking face and my shirt as best as I can. And one of the restaurant staff actually came out and was like, hey, like, who was that? And I was like, oh, it's my ex, I guess. And he's like, damn, crazy. And I was like, yeah. He's like, bro, it's my first day on the job. And that's the first thing I saw. And I was like, damn, well, welcome to work, I guess. And he's like, yeah, man, holy shit. I hope every day is this interesting. And I start laughing. He's like, dude, if you have a photo of her or like her name, let me know. And I'll go show my manager and like we can ban her from the restaurant. I'm like, sure, why not? So I gave him her info and he went to the back, right, to show the manager. And like 2 minutes later, the manager came walking out and he's like, hey, she just did that to you? And I was like, yeah. He goes, Maggie, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, she's a regular here. She comes in here all the time with her friends, like literally 3 to 4 times a week, bro, for breakfast. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, but she's not coming here anymore. That's some bullshit. And I was like, thank you. This manager was so cool. The whole staff was so cool about it. But honestly, that explained how she knew where I was, because I posted the food on my story, and she probably just recognized like the food or the table or something, or like maybe the wrapping they use like around the food. She probably recognized something from my story and just came right over and decided to throw the food in my face. So after this, we left the dining establishment and we went back home, and I took a shower and got changed because your boy was sticky from the syrup on my fucking face and all over my neck and chest, so it was gross. I took a shower, got cleaned up, and I texted Maggie, and I was like, yo, if you ever do that again, I'm getting your ass arrested. Leave me alone forever. Bye. And I blocked her. And at that point, I thought that was the end of it, right? I thought, okay, like, I probably won't see her again. I'll just avoid any parties that are being thrown by anyone we mutually know, and that'll be the end of it, right? Bro, tell me why I saw her a week later. I went to some fucking party thinking that she wouldn't know anyone there, and she was there. Literally, I had to have my homies like surround me and stand guard while I was there because I was afraid she was going to come up and throw something at me. She did try and approach me, but luckily, my friends told her to fuck off, and I didn't talk to her. I don't know if she wanted to apologize. I don't know if she wanted to like talk shit to me or try throw something at me again, but I wasn't dealing with it. So my friends essentially sent her away. And from that point forward, I just didn't talk to her anymore. She tried to follow me on Instagram like a couple months later because she unfollowed me after we broke up. But I just didn't follow back, and then she unfollowed me a couple days later. So, yeah, it just seemed like she was attempting to stay in touch with me, and I didn't want to deal with it. If you guys are wondering where she's at nowadays, she doesn't do Instagram modeling anymore. I don't know if it's because, like, she chose to not do that anymore, or she got sick of it. I don't know. But I looked her up before telling this story, and she hasn't posted shit in, like, over a year. So I'm assuming she's on a sabbatical from Instagram modeling. I don't know. All I do know is that I really don't like getting hit in the face with hot French toast. So I won't be speaking with her again. But yeah, guys, there is a moral to this story. It's that you can't trust everybody from the internet, okay? Some people online seem really cool, and maybe they'll be cool the first couple weeks you know them in person, but sometimes they show their true colors and they end up being weirdos. Or even a little bit violent, like she was. But yeah, guys, there's a little peek into my life the first, 2 months I lived in LA. I got to go to a party, learn that I hate that kind of party, learn that one of my favorite YouTubers was kind of a dick, got to date a girl who's considered an Instagram model, and then it blew up in my face, literally, with French toast. So, yeah, all in all, pretty interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. Definitely a long one. If you want more like this, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys all later. Peace.
I'm in a bad mood, I can see